Hey, good morning, guys. It is June 30th, and we are, as of the end of the day, we're halfway through the year, so that's kind of exciting. We are in Matthew 5. Jesus is teaching here, and the teaching is, he prefaces the teaching by saying he didn't come to abolish the law or the prophets. I've not come to abolish them, but I've come to fulfill them, is what he says in verse 17 of chapter 5 of Matthew there. And then he builds on that and addresses specific kinds of laws, murder and adultery and divorce and um, revenge, these certain things that the law gives specific instructions to. And then he kind of gives a new instruction, or at least a revised one. And Matthew 5:25 is dealing with settling matters with our adversaries, with our enemies, those who we have something against or have something against us. And it says, agree with them, with your adversary quickly, is what it says in Chambers. But NIV says, settle matters quickly with your adversary who's taking you to court. Do it while you're still with him on the way, or he may hand you over to the judge, and the judge may hand you over to the officer, and you may be thrown into prison. And so here's what I think it's saying, and not just in this one, but many of the things that Jesus is teaching here. What I think he's getting at is settle the external things before they make an internal difference. Anger and strife with a neighbor or an enemy or even a brother, settle it externally. Go ahead and settle it before it starts to impact your heart. And so Chambers deals with that. I like what he says here in the second paragraph. He says, Jesus says that it is a matter of eternal and imperative importance to me that I pay my adversary what I owe him. From our Lord's standpoint, it does not matter whether I am defrauded or not. What does matter is that I do not defraud. So what matters to him, because I'm a child of God, is that I am obedient and gracious and self-sacrificing. He says, am I insisting on my rights, or am I paying what I owe from Jesus Christ's standpoint? So we owe a debt we can't pay. So I think it's just this encouragement to always be willing to be the one who's wronged, and never be willing to be the one who is wronging. So I think that's important here. Down further, it says, our insistence in proving that we are right. This is a hard one. Our insistence in proving that we are right is nearly always an indication that there's been some point of disobedience. This idea that I need to prove I'm right is almost always a sign that there's a problem. There's a real problem. And so I think we need to use that if we ever find ourselves in that scenario where I'm trying to prove I'm right, stop and reflect and say, okay, where have I gone wrong? And then he ends with this: have you suddenly turned a corner in any relationship and found that you had anger in your heart? Confess it quickly. Quickly put it right before God. Be reconciled to that one. Do it now. The do it now is what Jesus has said in Matthew 5 there. And he also gives instruction: if you bring a sacrifice to the altar and then you realize your brother has something against you, leave the sacrifice there. Get up, go, make amends with your brother, and then come back and offer sacrifice. So I think the gist of it is that we need to approach God with clean hands and a pure heart. So when we have an offense or something against our brother, then that makes that task impossible. So we need to here's what I think is the toughest part, especially in today's culture. We need to be the unoffendable Hardy. We need to be the one who says, I'm not going to let the things that others do, say, the way they act, offend me. I cannot afford to be the offended party, because my heart is not able to remain obedient to the law of grace when my heart is stuck in offense. Hope that makes sense. I need to be the one who cannot and will not stand to be offended. I need to make amends, even if I'm wronged. And so I think that's a real tricky one. That's hard. And Jesus doesn't, like Chambers says, Jesus doesn't really clarify, even if only if you're right. Well, if I'm right, then I really don't need to make amends. If I'm sorry, yeah, but if I'm right, then that's a whole different scenario. I'm sorry, I'm getting it confused there, but the gist of it is, don't be offended, and when you are offended, learn to release that, to go back to the offending party and say, I release that, I forgive you. I hope that makes sense. I think it's a hard issue for sure. And it's a hard issue that keeps us separated from God. So he's saying, prioritize your relationship with me so that these other offenses with man become something that you can easily let go of. So hope that's an encouragement. You guys have a great day.